Kirstjen Nielsen, the head of Homeland Security, had to testify before the House Homeland Security Committee. Now, she didn't have to do that before because Democrats didn't have control of the House of Representatives. But once they did, of course, they wanted to ask her questions about Trump's zero tolerance policy and the treatment of migrants at the border, in addition to the way asylum seekers have been treated. So with that said, let's take a look at what Nielsen had to say in some of her testimony.
Sir, they're not cages.
What are they?
Areas of the border facility that are carved out for the safety and protection of those who remain there while they're being processed.
So that's a good way to start this because a lot of the question and answering had to do with the fact that children, migrant children, were separated from their parents at the border and placed in cages. Now, I refer to them as cages because I'm not blind. I think all of us have seen the same images of the cages, of children in literal cages. And what I love is the video you're about to see because she was asked to essentially elaborate on why she doesn't consider them cages. Take a look.
What is a chain link fence enclosed into a chamber on a concrete floor represent to you? Is that a cage?
It's a detention space, ma'am, that you know has existed for decades.
Does it differ from the cages you put your dogs in when you let them stay outside? Is it different?
Yes.
In what sense?
It's larger. It has facilities. It provides room to sit, to stand, to lay down.
So did my dog's cage.
So, guys, I don't want you to lose focus on one important thing. They're in an enclosed building. So it's not like they're out in open space and they say, hey, well, look, we've got to contain them somehow because we got to process them, we got to take care of them. So we needed to build some edifice, and then so we had to build this thing, and it turns out it was a cage, right? And so yes, that's an uncomfortable fact, but we had to contain it. No, they're already contained. They're in the building. You didn't have to build an extra cage on top.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And first of all, I want to give credit to Representative Watson Coleman. That was the woman who was asking the questions in the last video that you just watched. And I think that her line of questioning was perfect in demonstrating that these euphemisms that are utilized by the Trump administration are ridiculous and we're not going to buy that narrative. So let's go to another part of this issue. And again, it goes back to Trump's zero tolerance policy of separating parents from their children. I think that this next clip is very enlightening. Take a look.
To your knowledge, are you aware of family members who've been separated from their children and deported back to a country without their children?
Yes, sir. I would also just note that, consistent with longstanding practice in the law, before we deport any alien after they have gone through the process and receive a final order of removal, we do ask them if they would like to take their children with them. At that same time, their consulate or embassy, for purposes of issuing them travel papers, also asks them, would you like to be removed with your children as you're removed? As part of Miss L, the judge also asked us to go back and ask the parents again in conjunction with the ACLU, which we did. So there was no parent who has been deported, to my knowledge, without multiple opportunities to take their children with them.
So some members of Congress are questioning the validity of that claim, and I'm going to tell you who in just a minute. But I want to just remind you how many families were separated. More than 2,700 children were separated from their parents and detained by Customs and Border Patrol last year. Government data released last month, though, indicated that 250 parents had been separated from their children since last June. So the zero tolerance policy was discontinued, but there were still some cases of parents being separated from their children. And Representative Kathleen Rice, in response to what you just heard Kirstjen Nielsen say in that last clip, tweeted, "This is a lie. Lying to Congress under oath is a felony. The last person who did that is going to prison."
So it's been very clear from the reporting that a lot of the parents were not told where their kids were and they were deported. And they went to court and explained, well, we had trouble keeping track of people, etc. So for Nielsen to come out and say under oath in front of Congress that all of the parents were told multiple times where their kids were and that they could pick them up and refused. That's new. I haven't even heard that before, and it seems to contradict what they've said in open court. So she could be in a lot of trouble for that. I don't know if they know when to stop lying. Like when you're in front of the press, they've all gotten used to, oh, we just get our lead from the president. He lies 100% of the time, and there's never any consequences.
Including the press calling out the lies. There's never any consequence like that, right?
So, but if you do it in front of Congress, there's some pretty serious consequences. She's referring to Kathleen Rice, she's referring to Michael Cohen. He's going to prison for 3 years. And then you got Roger Stone, who was arrested. So these department heads better be careful. They don't have the same kind of immunity that Trump seems to have, and they're in front of Congress. Trump isn't.
So I want to show you one more clip from this hearing. Let's take a look at what Nielsen had to say.
Apologize, I don't know the full context of that. What I can tell you is we have encountered more family units per month than ever in history.
No, I just want to know what the president said, is it accurate or not?
I just don't know the context of his statement, sir. If he was talking about family units in a particular sector,
No, I'm talking about the number. We went from 1.6 million in 2000 apprehensions and 400,000 in 2018. The president said that there were never so many apprehensions at the border in our history up until now. Is that accurate?
Again, we've had monumental high numbers in some areas of the border.
Jim, I'm just trying to get a yes or no.
Sir, I just don't know the context of his statement.
Okay.
You are the head. You are the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and her answer is, I don't know. And the question was very specific. Donald Trump makes it seem as though there is a record number. The record means higher than ever before. Record number of migrants attempting to cross the border, record number of apprehensions. Is he lying or telling the truth about that? As the head of the Department of Homeland Security, how do you not know whether that statement is true or false? And if you genuinely don't know, then you are not fit for this job. You are completely incompetent.
So you don't have any context on if the situation is getting better or worse? Are there more people coming in than they were last year or a decade ago? You're not aware of that? Besides which, if you're not aware of it, the congressman just gave you the numbers. So her excuse is, well, I don't know the context that Trump said it in. Look, I get it that they're in an impossible position because they serve Donald Joffrey Trump. And so if they admit facts in Congress, he'll be so mad at them. And he'll have a tirade, he'll think about firing them, he'll start tweeting about them. But you look like a fool going, I don't know what the numbers are. Did Trump make that up? I don't know. And so, but you signed up for that. You didn't have to be as Secretary of Homeland Security. You chose to do that. So
was it worth it, Gollum? Like, was it worth it? Right? Because people keep saying in the media that she's in an impossible position, right? But she put herself in that position. No one, dragged her into this. No one forced her to be the head of the Department of Homeland Security. But she's actively decided over and over again to carry out the untold cruelty of the Trump administration. And she is now lying for him under oath in front of Congress, even after witnessing all these other Trump cronies and goons facing the legal ramifications of doing that.
But if you're wondering why, it's not just power, it's also fame, but much more importantly, it's money.
Is it worth it?
It's money. She will get contracts with lobbying firms for the rest of her life. And she will make millions of dollars because she was the head of Department of Homeland Security. They all get millions of dollars. So that's why she's doing it. Let's just be clear about that. It's pure greed. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.